DHT, my friends. Okay, so increasing 5-alpha reductase activity will help you make more DHT from your testosterone, which is going to improve libido. This is why I think that HCG is doing this. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on nootropics, on testosterone, on biohacking, on male performance. Subscribe to the channel if you do that stuff. Hit the bell to get notified of all future content, and please, I'd really appreciate it if you just hit that like button, bro. To quickly say that the Torque Nootropic Stack is still on discount. I just announced it on the live stream recently, so the code for this is 30 Torque. That will save 30%. It takes 30% right off of the price of Torque right now. Get it uber cheap. Do it at checkout and thank me later. Link in the description of this video. And by the way, Torque is 5 to 8 hours of clean stimulant energy. 2 capsules and you have a better brain and a better day. Okay, so this is what I want to do in this video. I want to because I recently was dealing with a client, one of many that we've run into this situation where TRT itself wasn't giving them adequate libido or had fallen off. And, you know, we're managing estradiol correctly, so that's not the problem. What's the real issue? In some cases, bringing HCG into the mix, or chorionic gonadotropin, which will make you make your own endogenous testosterone in addition to the injectable testosterone via essentially agonizing LH-FSH receptors in the testicles. You're just replacing gonadotropins. That's all you're doing with HCG. You're not doing anything at the hypothalamus level. You're doing it at the Leydig cell level. Now, this tends to improve sensation and libido and sexual desire and erection quality for some guys that are on TRT that are not able to achieve those things in full force with just exogenous testosterone. Now, a lot of people think that the reason that this happens is because HCG increases estradiol, or you'll end up making more estradiol, and that's just not true. Otherwise, in this poll right here, libido and HCG, you wouldn't have 19 people that take HCG but have no noticeable response in terms of sexual improvements. I'm going to get to this in just a second. But the point of this video is to explain my theory on why HCG gives you better libido on TRT and how to manage it correctly. So I'll get to that in just a second. It actually doesn't have anything to do with increased testosterone by itself or estradiol in my view. But let's look at this poll. Look, the guy goes, so I've tried my HRT protocol with and without HCG. When I stopped and restarted again, I felt like my libido and sensitivity had improved. But then you deal with higher E2 sides. Good point. Really just trying to figure out if it's worth it or not. So this is the poll. 62 people out of 116 votes total said not on HCG. Okay, irrelevant. 35 people said take HCG and have noticed improved libido and sensitivity. 19 people said take HCG but notice no improvements on sexual function. Okay, so let's break this down and try to figure out what's happening here. This is what I think. The 19 people that took HCG and did not notice sexual benefits were probably not adequately managing estradiol. This whole notion that estradiol is like, you know, your estrogen being high or whatever, that contributes to libido. Go ahead and try to take your testosterone down to 200 nanograms per deciliter or 300 nanograms per deciliter, but keep your E2 in that range that you think is helping your libido and see, you know, what happens to your libido. E2 has to be in a certain range that's good for you. And then once it's there, it's really about raising androgens and specifically DHT, which we're going to talk about. But let's talk about why people actually do notice improvements with HCG. Now, a lot of people think it's the neurosteroid front fill, so you're getting DHA and pregnenolone. I've seen that be useful because people backfill it, right? They'll take DHA and pregnenolone when they have no libido on TRT, and sometimes it fixes the problem, but sometimes it doesn't. What I think, as demonstrated or as sort of elucidated here in this paper, is that what HCG is doing ultimately is upregulating 5-alpha reductase function in the Leydig cells and presumably elsewhere. Look, 5-AR is a very fucking important enzyme that the guys that have PFS and PSSD probably shut down, right? They're not making enough of it and they need to upregulate it. But even if you're on testosterone, if you don't have enough 5-AR, these enzymes that convert your testosterone to the most powerful androgen to get you androgenic effects and androgenicity, which is libido, sexual function, erection quality, well, then you're not going to have any of those things on TRT. DHT, my friends, okay, so increasing 5-alpha reductase activity will help you make more DHT from your testosterone, which is going to improve libido. This is why I think that HCG is doing this. So this paper, titled Enhanced Stimulation of 5-alpha reductase Activity in Cultured Leydig Cell Precursors by Human Chorionic Gonadotropin, which essentially it goes on to tell us that when you infuse the Leydig cells with human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, you upregulate 5-alpha reductase activity in the Leydig cells. Presumably, though, this is taking place elsewhere where you have 5-alpha reductase. The study goes, these results demonstrate for the first time that in addition to increased testosterone biosynthesis and 3-beta HSD activity, the conversion of precursor cells to immature Leydig cells in vitro in response to chronic HCG treatment involves enhanced 5-alpha reductase activity. So it's basically telling us, in my extrapolation from that, in my position on this, is that HCG is not improving your libido because it's making you make more test. You're already injecting testosterone. HCG is not improving your libido because it's making you make more estradiol. Again, try dropping your testosterone to 300 nanograms per deciliter and keeping your E2 at 59 or 80 where you think your libido is higher, and tell me if you have libido. You won't, right? Because it's once estradiol is in the right range for you, libido is really about androgens at that point. It's the additional testosterone and ultimately the additional conversion to DHT. You know, your libido isn't higher on estradiol past a certain point. This is just an error in attribution, okay? It's not the estradiol. Sure, if you tank your estradiol, you're going to not have libido as well. But again, you know, if you want to prove yourself like right or wrong on this, just tank your testosterone and give yourself estradiol somehow. Get it in, you know, if you feel a libido on, 80 picograms per milliliter estradiol, okay, keep it at 80, superficially manufacturing estradiol somehow, and take your testosterone down to 300. Tell me if you have libido. You probably won't. And I think one sort of cross-reference we could use to validate what is my hypothesis at this point that I've seen many times in my consulting work is threads like this. And there's many threads on the testosterone subreddit as well as the TRT subreddit that basically say the same thing. And it goes, the lifesaver, Proviron, 2 weeks in as an addition to TRT, and mood, libido, orgasm, and erections are all amazing again. Now, why the hell is this happening? Well, Proviron is a synthetic DHT analog. Back to why I think HCG is enhancing libido on TRT when you're not having libido on TRT. It's like, why wouldn't you have libido on TRT? You got the testosterone, right? You're injecting it directly into your belly fat or your your quad or your delta or wherever. Ultimately, your testosterone, in order to have androgenic effects, which are sexual effects, it's got to convert to DHT. That is the potent androgen that gives you androgenic effects. So if you're not adequately doing that, you're not going to have good libido and erection function on TRT. But then if you bring HCG into the mix and you upregulate 5AR activity, which we see in this paper, and there's other papers on this too, well, then you're going to have more DHT. And this is why you get your libido back. Again, this is my contention. So switching back to Proviron. So Proviron, right, relative to DHT, is a DHT analog. It's a synthetic DHT derivative that has high affinity and binding capacity to androgen receptors. Now, why is it the case that when you get a hardcore direct agonist at the androgen receptors that is essentially read as DHT to those receptors and the ensuing transcription activation, why is it that that gives you incredible libido? Well, because DHT is androgenic. I mean, I would urge people to just go Proviron libido in the testosterone subreddit and just hit enter and see like what you get. That Proviron libido. Geez, every orgasm is like the best thing ever. Times a gazillion. Fuck. Wow. Amazing medication and mood lift too. 25 milligrams low dose maintenance plus TRT. Here's another one, which is kind of telling. Guy goes, I solved my libido problem with Proviron. So what should I do now? And one of his like pretty telling sentences here was, one of my theories was T was not getting converted to DHT. But unfortunately, in my country, Argentina, there's no DHT test. So my doctor kept saying, I need a psychiatrist. Yeah. Shout out to all the really great doctors out there. He goes, I got one 25 milligram pill of Mestrolone, which is the drug name for Proviron, and it felt my blood rushing to my dick as I didn't think in all this time. What? I don't know. I think his English is bad. He goes, I got horny and wanted to grab my phone and speak with some girls. Yeah, his English is definitely a little jacked. But hey, anecdotal, right? Perfect illustration of what's happening here. This guy's on TRT, should have libido through the roof, right? Why doesn't he? inadequate 5-alpha reductase activity that, Proviron gets in the middle of, because you don't need it 5-alpha reduced. It already is. It's binding directly, essentially as DHT to the androgen receptors. Okay, so what is the takeaway here, right? I'm just going to leave this poll in front of you guys so you can check it out. Yeah, HCG tends to improve, guys' experience on TRT after a certain point, right? After the honeymoon period or whatever is over. TRT itself may, in, I guess, susceptible males, essentially downregulate 5-alpha reductase activity, or TRT has nothing to do with it, and 5-alpha reductase activity just needs a little bump, which is why bringing HCG into the mix usually helps, so long as you're managing estradiol. If any guys that are on TRT that are watching this video that are like, this is interesting, and I'm on TRT and I had great libido, or I never had good libido on TRT, and I'm trying to figure that out, one of two things you could try. You could try bringing HCG in, but adequately managing estradiol, because that's going to fuss with your libido if it gets too high. Estradiol, it's like somehow estradiol is the driver of your libido. Like, where did we get all fucked up with this on the internet? Anyway, you could bring HCG in, manage estradiol, therefore upregulate 5-alpha reductase activity, and you probably have a resolution of your libido problems on TRT. Or if you just want to test this, again, you could just get some Proviron. Now, Proviron is a prescription chemical and it's hard to get. You probably have to go UGL for that. Otherwise, you may be able to bring this to the attention of your contact at a clinic, depending on how good the clinic is, and see if they can write you a script for Proviron to see if it improves libido and erection quality on TRT, and maybe even use it as a diagnostic tool. Okay, I've got a DHT derivative binding right to the ARs and activating, and it fixes my libido. Now I know DHT is the issue. So let's circle back and figure out why 5-alpha reductase is not functioning correctly, or I'm not making enough of it, and figure out how to make more of it. And presumably you can do that with HCG. As an aside, you're going to find that guys on compounded cream, which people like to sort of like discount as significant, but there's a lot of guys that have really great experiences on compounding cream. They have incredible libido and great erection quality and rock hard fucking diamond cutting morning wood. Wonder why that is, bro? Because they're making a lot of DHT, because the cream, if it's administered scrotally, gets converted to DHT via 5-alpha reductase intratesticularly. Anyway, hope that makes sense. Thanks so much for watching. As I mentioned in the beginning, the Torque Nootropic Stack, which is like, it basically flies off the shelf at the fulfillment center. We just have to keep re-upping on Torque because people love the stack, is 30% off. Coupon code is 30TORQUE right now. Go add it to your cart. On checkout, enter the code 30TORQUE and you will save 30% on what is probably the best pre-made stack that you can buy for the price. If you are having libido issues on TRT, and you're trying to figure it out, but you can't figure it out, hire me. This is one of the predominant things that I've been doing for more than a half decade. I also have a bunch of other specialties here, like nootropic regimen formulation. If you're a hardcore business person that needs to perform for 16 hours a day and then sleep well, hire me. This is what I do. The guys over there making the big bucks hire me to make them perform incredibly. All right, appreciate you being with me. Hope this has been useful. Subscribe to the channel if you appreciate anything I said. Please do it. Just hit the sub button. I'd really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Later.